Hello, everyone. Welcome to Girl Meets Rugby. This is Christina Lanham, and we've made it to episode 011, episode 11. It's been a few weeks in the making. I bet everyone thought she just gave up on the whole podcast thing, but I didn't. I was out of town part of last week, and that darn work project, man, it's still going. I was working till about 9 o'clock last night. Had full intentions of recording, and then I looked at the clock and I realized that wasn't going to happen. So here it is. It is Thursday evening. I have tried to block off some time so I can actually report because there's been so much happening and I missed being able to do this. So hopefully life is going to get more normal here in the very near future and I can record more consistently. But as I've said before, I can only do what I can do and I only have so much time and my job pays the bills. And this just brings me joy. So as much as I love doing it, sometimes you gotta go pay the bills first. But with all of that, let's go ahead and get things underway. I'm excited. I've got a new desk. So I'm standing up today, which is pretty fun. So who knows what this is all going to look like when it's said and done. But we're going to get things going. And let's go ahead and kick off with the news. All right. In the world of rugby, the U.S. is set to host the finals for the first time for the Pacific Nations Cup, or the PNC. So this is really exciting. They're going to be hosted in Denver, Salt Lake City, and Sacramento. And if you're wondering, like, gee, those are all on the West Coast. Well, it is the Pacific Nations Cup, so keeping it more to the western side of the country makes a lot of sense, particularly for those that are going to be flying in. They would be coming in from the West Coast. So I think that is a really smart idea. Those are some really great airports to get in and out of as well. And it should be a good chance to have some really good rugby on American soil. And that is going to be this year. So keep an eye out. I'm sure they will have tickets going on sale in the not too distant future for those events. Since it's the finals, we don't know who's going to be playing. So that will be revealed as time goes on. But yeah, it's exciting to see that coming to American soil, more opportunities for us to host international rugby. Just this past summer, we had the All Blacks versus Fiji in San Diego. In November, we're going to have the All Blacks versus Ireland. And I also saw that the All Blacks are going to be putting on some camps or rugby workshop type things. So it looked like, I believe, Miami and Houston. So check out that if you're interested, because, it's a great opportunity to learn from some, really incredible rugby players. So that's really great news. And then we've got USA Eagles on the women's side for the 15s had their couple of their first test matches. So their first match was up against Japan. This was over in LA. And so they ended up losing 33-39. So really competitive match, really close game. And then they went on to Kansas City, where they played Canada. And we ended up losing that one 14-26. Now, Canada women's 15s is like one of the best in the world. So they're a really tough team to beat. So I think we did a really great job with that. But not only did we gain a lot of experience through playing that game, it was Alona Marr made her debut for the women's 15s, but we set a attendance record for women's rugby in the U.S. Over 10,500 people attended that Kansas City match. So that is great to see. And that's definitely what we want to see more of. So really good things there. I believe they've got more matches happening. I've been a little out of it, as I've said, So I've been trying to catch up on everything that I have missed, but that's the information I have at the moment on the USA Women's Eagles. On the USA Eagles Men's 15, if you get a chance, you should go check out the Rugby Rant did a interview with Scott Lawrence just on the state of the 15s team, what they're looking at as they're working towards test matches and future World Cup pursuits. So really good interview that Rob Hammerschmidt did with Scott Lawrence. Highly recommend. I stayed up too late last night watching it, and I was paying for it this morning, but it was well worth it. Other news is the 2025 college draft for the MLR. Registration is now open. The deadline to get registered is July 30th. So definitely want to see, what prospects are going to be coming through. We've seen a lot of draft picks, particularly on the Anthem side, get a lot of play time. Previous draft picks, you've got Rick Rose is often starting or coming in off the bench for Miami. Max Schumacher this year has had a number of starts. He was a number 2 draft pick a few years back. So he's definitely getting a lot more play time. Emmanuel Albert, who was the second year of MLR draft, he just hit his 50 caps. So there is play opportunity for American players, and we want to get more depth in American players on our MLR teams. So if you know someone or you are someone that's interested, check out the USMLR and see what the requirements are to get registered for the draft. And that's everything I have in news at this point. Like I said, I'm sure there is tons more that I have missed, and I will be working to catch up on this and try and get some time in each day to find some good newsworthy chunks over there. But with that, let's go ahead and jump over into Women's Elite Rugby. All right. So they have announced Legacy Cup. So that is the conference final for the Women's Elite Rugby. That is going to be held on Sunday, June 29th at the TCO Stadium, which is in Minnesota, which is where the TC Gemini play. So that is going to be the location for the final. It's the day after the men's conference final for MLR, which will be over in Rhode Island. So probably tough to try and make both of those. It's probably possible, but given the unreliability of airlines and connections these days, wouldn't bank on it. Speaking from experience. But yeah, so they have announced the Legacy Cup. Right now, Denver Onyx are at the clear top. They are dominating, undefeated so far. They're at the top of the league with 30 points. The closest person next to them is the Boston Banshees in second with 21 points. And they've got the Bay Breakers and the New York Exiles tied at 17, and then followed by the TC Gemini. And unfortunately, Chicago at the bottom. Chicago hasn't won a game yet this season. I will say I did watch them play Denver, and they really held Denver back for most of the match before Denver started really scoring. And so I was pretty impressed with that. And I mean, in general, Denver has been scoring, 60, 70 points. And so I think they only pulled in 40 on that match, which, in relation to all things, they didn't score as high. And it looked like additional matches they've played, their scores have come down just a bit. But they continue to be a dominating force, clearly having the most players selected for the women's 15s. National team didn't seem to really impact them very much. So there's the answer to that question. But I think probably the biggest news with the Women's Elite Rugby right now is unfortunately not a super positive thing. They did a post out that basically for all the rest of the home games for the Bay Breakers, they're not going to be able to broadcast those live. They're still trying to figure out how they're going to make it available after the fact for streaming, asynchronously. So Now, this isn't the first that this has happened, and I know there's a lot of people upset. I've seen the angry comments because let me tell you, the comments is rarely for happy people. It's the unhappy people love to go to the comments and just tell you how unhappy they are. When they had their first season opener, they couldn't show anything. They couldn't stream anything live. I don't think we've seen that game yet, so I don't think there was even an offline availability for that match. And if you've looked at interviews with that team, there's a lot of complaints like it's not even close to the Bay Area. I made that comment myself. But they didn't have choices. There wasn't stadiums in the Bay Area available that they could use. And so they were able to broker a deal with Lodi, California for the Great Bowl. Great Bowl, as I've said in previous podcasts, does not appear to be in the greatest state. And I think that's probably evident with the venue not being able to support the video coverage and things of that nature. They're working with what they have. They're an inaugural team. They're in an area where they don't have lots of choices, and they're doing the best they can. Now, granted, we can all be disappointed, but there's only so much they can do. And I'm sure that this is very top of mind for them, very top of mind for the league, looking at what their options can be to either help this venue get itself to where it can actually support this team and be able to support live broadcasting, or to help them find somewhere else that they can go where they can get that support that they need to be able to perform and to be able to get that viewership. Because obviously, most of us are not making a trip out to Lodi to go see them play. Just like with any matches, if you're a Boston fan, the likelihood of you flying over every time they play in California isn't high. It's something I like to do, like once a year, pick out like a location to go to, but it's not something that you can just do consistently. And so we really rely on these broadcasts, and we rely on being able to watch the game live. And so I know this is something that they are very concerned about. It's definitely not something they wanted to announce. But they're trying to be honest, they're trying to be real, and they're trying to work with what they have. So before you just spew out the hate in the comments, just take a minute to know, they are trying, and they are working within the means that they have, and hopefully they're going to be able to turn this around. I don't know what their future is in Lodi, especially given this. But, if you know of venues that might be able to take in a women's professional rugby team for next year in that area, reach out to them, help them out. Let's do some community support in that. So, yeah, that's everything that's going on over there. Really sad to see. I know it's not how they wanted things to turn around for their team, for the league in general. But we're going to press forward. It's all we can do. So that's life in the women's elite rugby. Excited as we are barreling towards the end of the season and seeing how things turn out. Maybe there'll be a big upset. I mean, look at MLR last year. Houston dominated the entire season and then just fell on their faces in the playoffs, like hard. So just because you are dominating the season for regular play doesn't mean that's going to always translate at the conference finals. So, and with that, let's go ahead and jump over to the MLR and talk about all that's been happening over there. I'm not gonna lie, when the music comes on, I do a little dance behind the scenes. It's catchy. I like it. That's why I picked it. But okay, so big news with MLR. Anthem is officially out of contention for the playoffs. They're sitting at the very bottom of the Eastern Conference. It's no surprise to anyone. They just have not been able to turn out a win this season. So the fact that they are now just out of the running makes perfect sense. They did in their most recent match against LA, they had a coaching change. So they had someone else at the helm. It didn't really seem to make much of a difference. Now, maybe in a coming week's match that will, I don't know. But they're just, since they've been having to ramp up and they had the storm week and they had to play so many matches in a row, they just don't seem to be, the wind is out of their sails, I guess is the best way to describe it. In the beginning of the season, like the matches were close. They almost won multiple matches. In fact, if their kicking game had been on point, which is a consistent problem in the MLR, kicking has not been great this season in general. But if their kicking had been on point, they'd have a few wins under their belt. And so it's one of those, they're just, they're not performing up against the other teams. And even in the match against LA, they were doing a little side-by-side comparison of the scrum halves. And it looked like the LA scrum half had like 100 pounds on the Anthem scrum half. So they're younger. I don't think that they're as physically formidable to their counterparts, which is certainly going to have a massive impact in their ability to, out-muscle them on the pitch. Muscle isn't everything, but it sure means a heck of a lot in a scrum. So, and it means a heck of a lot in the ruck. But we'll have to see what comes for Anthem. I don't see them getting a win this season at this point. They just seem to be fizzling out. Just they're just not as strong. I think they've had some injuries, but I wouldn't count them out completely for next season or anything of that nature. They're building. I mean, their play time was significantly better this year than it was last year. So there's been improvements. And we know that this is a team to build American players. And they've had a bunch of milestones this year. I mean, they had the all-domestic roster, for the first time. They had a starting 15 was all domestic. And so they're really getting those American players good time on the pitch, helping them gain the necessary experience. And that's what it's about. I feel for them. It's hard to keep motivated when you're losing every single match. But they should take heart in the really close ones. And they need to just, pick lessons from the ones they've lost and figure out what they're going to do better the next time. But yeah, Anthem's out of the playoffs. It's not happening for them. New England, on the other hand, is the first team to clinch the playoffs. So they have earned themselves into a place where no matter what, they are definitely in the playoffs. And so, yay, Free Jacks, they're going for the three-peat. We're all hoping to have someone dethrone them, except for Free Jack fans, of course. So let's go ahead. We'll kind of start off in the West, and then we'll make our way over to the East. I know I just talked about two Eastern teams, but that was really about playoff implications there. So in the West, Utah is barely holding on to their lead. So it's 43 points for them, 42 points for Houston. They just had a major upset loss against Seattle. So Seattle came to Utah to play. And let me tell you, the wind was intense. I think they were having 50-plus mile-per-hour gusts. You kick the ball for a conversion, and it literally makes a big U-turn and just flies in the other direction. It was like a boomerang. So massive impact on that game. Made it really tough for both teams. But Seattle, at the very end, manages to score a try and secure a win that was nobody saw coming. And Seattle was still continuing to play kind of all over the place. They had a lot of ball handling errors, but they brought in, as a new scrum half for them, Nick Boyer. Now, you might recognize Nick from San Diego Legion, Houston SaberCats. He hasn't been playing this year, so it was great to see him get picked up. He's a great person. He's a great player, and he made a massive impact in that game. And I think you could kind of tell, like, there isn't complete cohesion with him and all the other players, because literally it was announced this week and then he was playing. So I think given a little bit more time, he can, get some more finesse in there and get to know players for some better handoffs. But he was great out there. He worked his tail off that match, and it even got him a first 15 nod from the MLR. So congrats, Nick Boyer. Great to see you out there. Great to see you playing, even though it's for the Seawolves. Glad to see you doing stuff. And then you've got Houston in second, who just had a really solid match against San Diego, beat them convincingly after having lost horribly to New England the week before. Now, I know it was rainy and it was cold, but that's life. It just seems every time we head over to the East Coast, we seem to fall on our face. We were out of sorts. Team play wasn't good. New England was definitely much stronger, much better on that pitch. They 1,000% deserved the win. And so, yeah, it was not the greatest game I've ever seen. And then the one against San Diego, complete opposite, much stronger playing time. We did have a little scary moment where Emmanuel Albert went in for a tackle slightly wrong, kind of got a knock to the head and knocked himself out. My understanding is he's recovering fine. He was able to get home with the team. So we're really excited for that. Hate to see a player get hurt. So I was really glad to hear that, he was awake by end of match and talking and being examined, and, everything seemed to be good. So I'm really, really thankful for that. But, it was the most consistent thing about Houston is that they're inconsistent. It's like that when they're on, and when they're not on, who knows what's going to happen. They might pull out a win. They might lose by 1,000,000 points. And them and Old Glory DC just don't seem to want to throw a line out that is worth a darn. So, yeah, it's just some rough stuff. It was great to see Davey Kutzer back this week. So he'd been out with a hamstring injury for like 4 games. And there's just such a difference when he is on the pitch and when he's not. And he did have to come out a bit early. It looked like when he was doing one of his kicks, he may have tweaked that hamstring again. So I don't know if we'll see him for the upcoming match or not. We definitely want him for playoffs. So I have to make the best judgment calls there. But he's just a difference maker on the pitch. So I'm a massive Davey Kutzer fan. And then let's see, LA played Anthem, so they won, surprise. But this is after coming off of the first draw for the 2025 season. LA Seattle ended in a draw the week prior, so it was good for them to get that win. They're hanging on. The Western Conference in general is really close. You got LA sitting at 35. You got Utah at 43. Depending on who wins or loses, these dynamics can change pretty quickly. It is a pretty tight conference, so I don't think we know just yet who is going to be the Final Four, because even Seawolves, with this last win, they're only 2 points behind LA. So depending on how matches go, they could move up. So it's really tight. Every game matters at this point to figure out who is going to be in what position, because obviously the higher your position, the more advantage you have for playing at home versus having to play away. And isn't that what we all want for our teams? Now, over on the East, of course, again, New England has secured their playoff spot. They reign supreme at number 1. And so they are sitting with, I think, 45 points for the top of the league. So in comparison with the West, still quite a bit of parity. You've got Utah 43, New England 45, and let's see here. Let me make sure I've got that right. Yeah, 45. So you've got quite a bit of parity within the leagues as far as we're pretty evenly ranked across as far as the points earned this year. So they've done well. They've continued to just win all of their matches and typically win convincingly. So they're definitely on the train to do a 3-peat this year. And again, everyone except a Free Jack fan would like to see that change. Chicago is sitting in second place in the East, and so they had a game against Miami, which they beat them 14-7, but then they fell to New England because New England's being New England. So they lost that match, but they're still really well ranked on that Eastern Conference. I really see them making playoffs this year. Then you've got Old Glory DC, who, much like Houston, most consistent thing about them is being inconsistent. But they did beat Utah in an upset. I mean, I'm sure everyone went in there. I went in there just assuming it's Utah. They're doing great this year. They're going to win. And that was not the case. DC definitely beat them. And then they went on to beat New Orleans just this week in a midweek match. And so that was 27-14 in their favor. And yeah, so DC's having a couple of really strong games. The biggest thing is, can they hold on to that momentum? Because when they're on, they're on, and when they're not, they're not. So it's questionable where they're going to fall. New Orleans has lost, since I last reported on things, 3 matches in a row. So they fell to San Diego 45-36. They fell to Miami 25-19. And then, of course, the Old Glory game just this week. So it's not looking good for them. They're in definitely the highest risk of falling out of the playoff contention. And so they've really got to turn things around. And there are times when they play really well and they've got really good plays. They score really good tries. Mignot, the French guy on the wing, he's great. They've got several other players really, really good. And then they make some really odd choices in the critical moments of the match, and that just don't seem to make a lot of sense, end up causing them to lose, possession, causes them to fall on the wrong side of the ref and get penalties, get carded. And so, they've got the tools, they've got the players. They just need a cohesive game. So we'll see what happens. And then you've got good old Miami, who they win some, they lose some. They're sitting in 4th place at the moment. There's a 2-point spread between them and New Orleans. So it's kind of like, who's going to make it to the end? Because Miami, in general, they play well. They just, again, are another team that doesn't make really great decisions, particularly in critical game-ending moments. They love to kick the ball to the other team when they really need possession. But that's okay. I mean, hey, we've got other teams that, they want to get several yellow cards in the last minutes of a game because, why have so many people on the field? Let's make it hard for ourselves. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think you've got New England and Chicago are definitely, unless something goes catastrophic, Chicago will be in the playoffs with New England. And then it's really, where is Old Glory, Miami, and NOLA going to fall? If Old Glory can hold on to what they've been doing, I think they're definitely getting a playoff berth. And then it's down to Miami and NOLA, and we'll have to see what happens there. When you're looking at the east or the western side, I think San Diego is holding at 39 right now, which is in 3rd slot, but they've been really all over the place with their games. And so they're playing Seattle, who just had this upset win. It's probably going to give them some momentum. So is that going to be enough for them to beat San Diego and then possibly have them fall within ranks if LA does well? I don't know. We're going to have to see. Like I said, it's all to play for over there. And then, but you've got on the East, there's like a 16-point spread between 1st and 5th. And in the West, there's about a 10-point spread. So it's 2 games to win, and someone else loses to get yourself from, the bottom to the top. How likely is that? Well, we've had more than 1 week in the West where only one team actually did well. So it's possible. And then we've seen a few city kits in the MLR. So The San Diego team did their Razzle Dazzle, which I had to look up because I was like, it seemed familiar, but I couldn't remember what it was. But it was back in the World War I days. They did a little bit in World War II, but it was more of a World War I effort, was to paint some crazy black and white, abstract looking Picasso style stripes and blocking on ships. So that way, when you were looking at it, you couldn't quite tell like which direction the ship was going, what the angles of the ship were, because it was just creating this weird optical illusion. And so it was kind of fun to just jump down that little path of history and learn that. And so I appreciate San Diego doing a jersey that was inspired by that, that just, piqued my curiosity and had me deep dive down a little bit of military history. So that was cool. And they looked okay. I mean, they were very razzle-dazzle. New England had their kits out for Quincy Day, and those were amazing. So Oliver Gilpin, who, again, Rugby Rant, dropping them, had done an interview with him, which was fantastic. And he actually is the one that designed the jersey. And so it was really cool. Love that jersey. I wish I had like 15 million walls so I could just buy all these jerseys and mount them everywhere. But I have to rein myself in. And then the New Orleans City kit I thought looked really good, and they've worn it a couple of times now, and I just feel like it even empowers them at home. But it's like all black with some gold trim, and then it's got kind of like the fleur de lis graphic on there. It's probably not what it's called, but that's what I call it in my head. And that just looked really cool, and so I like that a lot. Otherwise, I feel like I haven't seen city jerseys from anyone. It's like we just decided not to do it this year, which is kind of a disappointment because people look forward to it, and maybe one will just randomly pop up somewhere. I don't know. But those are the ones that I saw for this year, and I do miss it. I hope that, we look forward to Kitmas in December for the announcement of what are the kits going to look like for the coming year, so we can judge them as we do. And then the city kits, like we want to see like how are people representing their city. Oh, Chicago had one. Chicago, it was blue and green, and I didn't care for it, mostly because I just felt like the color, the shade of blue and the shade of green just didn't go together, and that's a personal opinion on my part. So take it or leave it, doesn't really matter. But I didn't love them. I wouldn't say they were the best, but it was okay. But in general, like there's not been like the city kit reveals. Like New Orleans blew it out of the park with their city kit reveal. The social media that they did around that, I took pictures, I sent it to people. I'm like, check out this, look how cool this is. I mean, it was just awesome looking. I loved it. And so, yeah, let's see more of stuff like that. It was really good. It was fun to be able to share that out with people. But in general, that's what's happening in the MLR. A lot of craziness. Who knows how the season is going to end up? And we're just going to have to wait it out and see. Hopefully, the next couple weeks will be less torrential rain or wind or lightning. And they'll be able to play rugby for rugby's sake without needing a set of scuba gear to get through the pitch. But that's everything for this episode. I appreciate you guys. I'm hoping to post again more regularly moving forward, but all contingent on the fun work project. So we'll see how that goes. But until then, take care. And this has been episode 011 with Girl Meets Rugby. Take care, everybody.